My name is Mahailee, and I have a problem. So you've probably heard of an appendectomy. So you know that an appendectomy is the solution to appendicitis, which is a issue that's not really a big problem until it's a deadly one. So your appendix is rupturing, and no one knows besides you because you can feel the pain. So no one else would know that your appendix was rupturing unless you told them that you were hurting in this area or they did like x-rays and stuff. I don't know how all that stuff works, but I do know that it is an internal problem and you can't see it. You can't see what's happening. It's not like a broken bone. There's no bruising. It doesn't look disformed. It's inside of you. So you wouldn't know that someone was walking around with an appendix that was about to rupture. So this is not a problem, like I said, not a problem until it is a deadly issue and you have to get an emergency surgery to survive it. And because it's internal, it's like internal bleeding. You would never know that someone was bleeding internally unless they got x-rays or there was bruising on the area. And usually if you're bleeding internally, it's like on your stomach, so it's like under your shirt, so you would never see and never know that someone was bleeding internally unless they told you or unless you were a doctor and they went to you for this problem, because it's not visible. Or appendicitis is not visible. It's not visible at all. Like, you would never know. And this is just like mental health, because if it's bad, no one will know unless you tell them. Or unless they're seeing the signs, like they're actually looking and seeing these are the signs that someone has bad mental health. And your mental health is not a big problem until it's a suicidal one. So it's just like appendicitis. It is not an issue until it is a deadly issue. So, and you've probably seen the posters that are on the college walls, or you've probably seen it on social media of some sort, and it gives the number to the suicide hotline and encourages you to not commit suicide. Well, that just actually pisses me off because that's part of the problem. So we have not yet normalized talking about our issues with people. Like, it's not normal for me to walk up to someone and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this. Can you help me? Can I talk to you? Like, that's not normal in today's society, which is bad because that's part of the reason why a lot of people commit suicide, because they don't reach out until it's a problem, or they never reach out and then they commit and then it's over and there's nothing more you can do about it for that person. But these posters and things that are on social media are all encouraging suicidal people to not commit suicide, which is, it's okay, but it's not, we can do better. I believe that we can do better, because instead of posting things and encouraging suicidal people to not do it and not take that step, we should be offering help to people who are struggling with something. Like, if someone has had a death in their family and they're struggling with it, but they don't know who to talk to because all the other people in their family are struggling with it, who are they going to talk to? They're going to talk to their friends, because not everyone is comfortable talking about that stuff, because not everyone knows how to comfort someone who is in pain, which is why we need to normalize this. So, according to the CDC, suicide is the second leading cause among people of my age and younger. That's not good. The first one is accidents, but the second one is suicide. So enough people have committed suicide within that age range that it has become the second leading cause that is killing us off. And it's ourselves, because our mental health gets so bad that we think there's no other way out, and that's terrible. That's so sad. And I think you could agree that it's sad too. It's pretty bad. And suicide is the result of a mentally damaged person not getting help soon enough, so they believe that there's no other way out. And a lot of people have been there before. And enough people have been there before that they actually did it, and that's why it's the second leading cause of death in people my age and younger. So it can be hidden pretty easily. I would know from experience. I have hidden my bad mental health. But this is a tough subject. So it's like internal bleeding. So if you were bleeding on the inside and there was bruising, you could hide it with a shirt, which is how people hide marks on their wrist or on the inside of their legs where they cut themselves, because for whatever reason it makes you feel better. You can just simply cover it with clothes, or you can hide your bad mental health with a smile, because that's how some people figure out if you're happy or not. Like you could go walk around with a smile and be laughing with a big group of friends, but you turn away for a second and you feel totally alone because there's no one you can talk to. And it's a terrible feeling. Mental health is normally not the forefront for problems that need to be faced because you can't see it. It's not physical health, so you don't look sick. You don't look broken. You don't look like you're on the edge, and that's why it sucks so bad. That's why it's hard to know if someone is struggling. Like, I'm sure you have probably worried about maybe your children, or you've worried about your friends, your family, because maybe something seems off one day. And if it seems off one day, then that's one of the signs. If they just seem off, that doesn't mean that they're suicidal or anything. It just means that they have a problem that they're not coming to anyone with. So they're dealing with it by themselves, by just bottling up their emotions or crying themselves to sleep at night. Like, that's something that a lot of people do. And so when you were in elementary school, I'm sure you went to the nurse at one point and you had a problem, and she was like, "I'll just put ice on it. Ice will fix it." And then you're fine. Because if it's not a broken bone, if you don't see a bone or you're not bleeding, then you're fine. That is what they told us in elementary school. I remember being told that in elementary school. That is not the case. That's not the case, because that's totally wrong in so many different areas. But if you went up to your nurse in school and was like, and you were crying, and they asked you what was wrong, and they're like, "Well, I don't see a broken bone, or you're not bleeding, so you're fine." That's what they say. That's not good, because it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be struggling with something. I know a 10-year-old that committed suicide. A 10-year-old. That's a child. Someone that should be like playing hide and go seek and tag with their friends. That's a child. They shouldn't even be worried about stuff big enough like that. So sad. And according to the CDC, 800,000 people die from suicide every year. That's nearly every 40 seconds. So within the time that the class period that we have for this class, 157 people would have killed themselves because they didn't think that their life was worth living, and they didn't find a way out. They didn't think that there was a better way to solve their problems than to just not be here. 157 people within 2 hours. That's a lot of people. That's 40 seconds. Every 40 seconds that you walk on this earth, someone dies. Someone is that mentally damaged that they take it upon themselves to kill themselves. we can do better. That's so bad. That's incredibly bad. That hurts me, and it should hurt you too. Like, that hurts my heart to think about that. So, in order to start fixing this, we have to start looking for the signs and stop telling people that there's bigger and worse problems and your problems aren't a big problem because, well, I'm struggling with this at home. Because we shouldn't compare people's problems. If my cat died and I'm struggling with it, then that's a problem. And if I try to talk to someone about that and they're like, well, I get beat at home, so don't talk about your problems. That's also a big problem. But when someone's feelings are pushed to the side, that's an even bigger problem because that can lead to bad mental health. If they don't have an outlet for their feelings and what they're going through mentally, then it can get bad enough that they kill themselves. Happens every 40 seconds. Someone's feelings get pushed to the side, or they don't feel like they're cared about enough, so they kill themselves. And a lot of them don't think anyone would care. But people show up to that funeral, I promise. So signs. There's a lot of signs. There's a lot of signs, but a lot of people don't show signs. If someone stops taking interest in things that they love, like for me, that would be playing softball or hanging out with my friends in big groups. If I just stayed in all the time, that would be a sign. Because I'm a social person. I do not like being on my own. This whole quarantine thing, not for me. I hate it. I'm sure a lot of other people hate it too, but I hate it. And if I were to just stay in my room for 2 weeks, I can promise I would have at least 5 friends that would reach out to me and ask me what is going on with me. And that is the kind of people that we need. That we need more of those people. We need more of those people. I stayed in my room for 2 days, not in quarantine. I was on campus then. And 2 of my friends came to my room and knocked on my door. I didn't let them in. They let themselves in because there was a problem. And they knew because I was sitting in my room, not doing anything, not on my phone. I wasn't talking to anyone. I didn't feel like talking to anyone, but they brought it upon themselves to get into my room and into my suite so that they could see if I was okay. Those are the people that we need. More signs. If someone stops eating. If someone stops, like if you take them out and they're not eating a lot, then 1, they're either sick, or 2, they could be struggling with something. Another sign, if you're in a big group and you see someone who's laughing and they look like they're having a good time, but maybe they drift off for a second. You don't know where they've gone. They're just kind of staring off into space and everyone else is laughing, but that one person is just not moving, not doing anything. That's a sign. Because they're thinking about when they go home alone and when they leave that big group, the bigger problems they're going to face when they get to where they are alone. Because they have bigger stuff that they are dealing with. And no one is noticing. That's happened. That has happened a lot. That stuff happens so much. You would not, it's the little things, but you would have to notice that. If you're texting someone, you guys talk on the daily, and they seem off, like they're not texting normally, the energy isn't there, they don't seem very motivated to do anything, they're struggling with something. Whether or not they're going to tell you, you can't force them to tell you, but they're struggling with something. So just reach out. Reach out. If even you have like a little instinct, maybe a gut feeling that someone is going through something, there is nothing wrong with reaching out and saying, hey, you seemed off the past couple of days. Are you okay? What's going on? That could change. That could change someone's life. That could stop someone from doing it. Because one person reached out. One person noticed that there was something different that day. Even if it wasn't big. And that can save someone's life. Just asking a question, are you okay? It's not much. And a lot of people get annoyed when other people are down all the time. And they don't know why. They're like, gosh, they're such a dramatic person. They feel too much. They feel all the time. They're sad all the time. Yeah, well, they're probably struggling with depression. And they possibly could be suicidal. And they probably self-harm. And that's something that we need to start noticing. We need to stop pushing people to the side because they feel too much. And they feel all the time. And they're sad all the time. Oh, what? What's the matter with that? I mean, some people are going through things and they don't have anyone to talk to. So if they're opening up to you and they're like, hey, I'm sad about this today. Well, then it's a new subject and they're upset. Then talk to them. Don't just push them to the side because, well, I don't have time for that person. You can't not make time because then you'll have to make time for their funeral. And I can promise you, you'll feel so much worse about that. 5 minutes. Talk to someone for 5 minutes about their problems and I swear it would change something. So, I'm going to talk about a few people. So, this is, I don't know if you can see these, oh yeah, you can see these pictures. The older one, his name is Jimmy. He was a swimmer, and he had some heart problems. He struggled with depression and bipolar disorder. He overdosed on heart medication. He took a lot of his pills and overdosed because he was struggling with being in and out of the hospital. He already had bad mental health, and his heart condition did not help him. And even though he was at a hospital most of the time during the time he was struggling, no one noticed that there was something going on with him. So he killed himself. This is Scott. That's actually one of my mom's friends. He struggled with depression. He was a football player. He loved reading Hamlet and Macbeth out loud because he just loved doing that. And he had a drug problem. He struggled with addiction, and he was trying to get clean, and he stopped using drugs, and it got bad enough that he hung himself. He didn't have an outlet and anyone to talk to because he struggled with addiction, which is a disease that a lot of people don't take notice in, which is really sad. Sorry, I have a lot of pictures. Okay, so this is actually my cousin. Her name is Lacey. That's her kid. That is also my cousin. She has to grow up without a mom now because she also struggled with addiction. She hung herself when she was 26, and I don't know a whole bunch about her, but she would have done anything for that kid. So when she was on drugs, she hallucinated a lot, and she would see these things. Her mind would make up these things because of the drugs, and she protected that child because of the things that she saw. They weren't real, but she protected that child at all costs. She loved that kid. This is Carissa, also one of my mom's friends. She was the life of the party, and she was really kind-hearted. She's the mother of one of my friends, actually. His name is Cannon. He is in the Army now, but he struggled a lot with his mom's suicide, because she actually overdosed on drugs too. A lot of these people have overdosed on drugs, but she struggled with a lot. She had a lot going on, and her son kind of blames himself for that, but it wasn't his fault. But it's another It's another person left without a mother because no one reached out. This girl is Mandy. It's also one of my mom's friends. She struggled with depression and addiction. She was a teacher at my old high school, Massac County High School. She absolutely loved her students, but she also had a lot going on, and she didn't have anyone to talk to. And because of that, because she had no outlet and no one noticed anything, her kids didn't notice anything, which that's not their job. It's not anyone else's fault. It's just they didn't have enough people to talk to. But her coworkers didn't notice, her boss didn't notice, and she overdosed. This is Olivia. She struggled with depression, and she got help from a lot of counselors, and she was on medication. She had a beautiful voice. She was very artsy. She was musical. She had a guitar that she loved to play. And she struggled with her depression so much that nothing was helping her. So she stopped getting help from her counselor, and she stopped taking her medication, and she also hung herself. This is Ashley. She overdosed on pills, but she had a huge heart. There was this one time she was in a grocery store, and she overheard the cashier talking about she wasn't going to be able to afford a gift for one of her friends. It was her birthday party. So Ashley heard about what she was wanting to get her and what maybe she would get her one day. So Ashley left and went to the store where the thing was and got it and brought it back to her and was like, here you go, I overheard you talking, this is the present that you're talking about, have a good day. Like, she was just, like, she did stuff like that, because that's just who she was. This is Harvey. He's also in my family. He was 17, and he had a lot of stuff going on. He was never actually diagnosed with depression, but he did take antidepressants as a mood stabilizer, which antidepressants they have bad side effects. He was in a religion that made him choose between his dad, because his dad wasn't religious in that way. So the people from the church that he went to, they made him choose between his dad and his religion. And he was 17. He shouldn't have to make decisions like that. It's a big decision. But he was homeschooled, and he was artistic. He played guitar. He loved to fish. As you could see, he was fishing in that photo. But he really struggled with that problem for a long time of having to choose between his dad and his religion. And he struggled with suicidal thoughts, and he attempted, or was going to make attempts multiple times, but he called his best friend. He was close enough with his best friend that he called his best friend every time he got like that, and he was like, I need you to tell me why I should not do this right now, which is probably mentally damaging for his friend as well, but his friend stuck with him through it, and he talked him out of it multiple times, which his mom didn't know that until after he actually ended up doing it one time. But he never, the last time that he attempted and actually did it, he did not call his best friend. He didn't call anyone. He was sure about it at that time. That's what he wanted. So he did that, and that's when his best friend told his mom about all the times before. This is the last girl. I went to school with her. Her name is Mason. She was a runner, and she was a sophomore at my high school when she died. She had 2 younger siblings. She had a sister and a brother, and she struggled with depression. My art teacher told me that she seemed fine that day at school. She was just her normal self that day. She just didn't want anyone to notice her. She had a boyfriend who didn't notice. She had friends who didn't notice. The art teacher, who gets really close with her students, she didn't notice either. And she went home later that day and hung herself. But her family found her, and they rushed her to the ER. She was put on life support. She died a couple of days after because she went too long without oxygen to her brain. Yeah, that's about it of the people. But all the people I have pictures of. All those people plus 1, 2, 3, 4 more. They are all dead. All of them are gone because they didn't think that their life was worth living. So I'm going to talk about a personal story. I'm going to try to talk about a personal story. So the teacher that I talked about, she worked at the high school that I transferred from because I ended up having a lot of problems there. I was never diagnosed with depression, but I believe that sophomore year I probably formed depression because I didn't have a lot of friends. A lot of people stopped being friends with me or something so dumb. But my best friend actually, super high school story, my best friend actually turned on me, and she turned all of the rest of my friends against me, so I didn't have anyone to talk to. I played softball there. I got a bat thrown at my head. Someone slammed a door into my face. I got a concussion from that. They really didn't like me, and they made sure I knew it. The softball seniors on the team, they came to my house in the middle of the night and ripped my windshield wipers off of my car so I couldn't drive to school the next day because it was raining. They really did not like me, and they made sure that I knew it. I went home, or I tried to go home. I tried to go home one day early from school, and I got in my car to go home. I wasn't going to go home. One of my guy friends actually stopped me. He made sure that I was okay before I drove off, and he called me, even though he was in class. He called me on my way home to make sure that I actually got there, and my mom came home early that day too. I was so unhappy, and I had no one to talk to. Which is why I wanted to talk about this, because I know there's people that are struggling the same way that I was. Then there was this other time later I didn't know that I was going to be switching schools. I thought I had 2 more years left there. And I was really struggling with that because I thought that I was going to have to deal with that the whole time. I thought that nothing was going to change. I actually moved schools and states, though, so it was better. But I came to Florida so that I would be away from all that. 13 hours is not far enough, let me just tell you. But it's a lot better. Then there was this other time. I used to ride my bike a lot, and I would always ride to this one spot. There was this big statue that I used to sit on, and about 20 feet in front of the statue there was a cliff thing, because there was a river, and they had a fence over it, but there was a couple of places where you could get through the fence and sit on the ledge. And that is the second time that I was going to attempt. But one of my mom's friends actually was walking through that same area on that day, and she saw me. And she had her granddaughter with her, and she didn't know what I was going through, and I didn't tell her. And she didn't know what was going on right then, but she could see that I was upset. So she sat there and talked to me for a while, which is sometimes just what some people need, even if it's a stranger. And she actually her granddaughter is the reason why I actually went home that day, because that made me think of my future kids. And that one day I want kids, and I want them to have kids, and I want to know my grandchildren and my children, because I want to grow my own family. And that kept me going until I finally left that school. I actually went to my counselor at that school too. She told me it was my fault. Not a good counselor. Don't ever do that. If someone is struggling with something, and whether you're a counselor, do not tell them that it's their fault, because that's not good. That's not a good way to deal with things like that. And because of all of that, my birthdays, for some reason, since then, have been extremely emotional. So when I first moved here, my birthday was in September. That was one of the most emotional days that I have had in a long time. Besides today, of course, because I'm crying. I'm not crying. And that was the first time I told my mom about everything. About, like, all of the deep, dark stuff that was happening. I told her about that over FaceTime, because I, for the first time, am happy. Like, extremely happy. Even though I'm in quarantine right now, this is the happiest I've been in a long time. And I cried on my 19th birthday this year, not too long ago, because I didn't think that I was going to get to this point in my life. I wanted to move away for so long. I didn't think that I was going to get that chance. And I didn't think that I was ever going to make it to my 19th birthday. I didn't think that I was ever going to be truly happy until I was gone. And I'm still here. Which is why I feel like everyone needs an outlet. I never had an outlet until not too long ago. And it's extremely blessing. It's blessing. It's a blessing. I was blessed enough to not have an outlet and yet to still make it here. And now I have friends that I can talk to that stuff about if I ever felt that way again. But I don't think that I will. Knock on wood. But, so it's extremely emotional to have birthdays now, because I didn't think I'd make it this far. So, to conclude, finally, this is a very long speech, I'm so sorry. I want everyone to stop ignoring the signs and to just maybe take a mental day to themselves. Maybe just go on a walk or go on a hike for a day to heal, because sometimes you just need that. And if someone comes to you with a problem and they open up, don't ignore them. Talk to them and make them feel like someone wants them here, because they may not feel that way. So when because you are teaching a class, so the next time you come into a class, just any class, just look at all of their faces and just think to yourself, like, every 40 seconds someone is dying from suicide. Think about if that could be one of them. It very easily could be one of them. They're college students. Could very easily be one of them. So just maybe reach out to your students. Maybe if you feel like, if you get an instinct that maybe one of them feels something or is off one day, just reach out. Ask them how they're doing. It's that simple. It's just stuff like that could change someone's life and outlook on their life. Thank you.